You do it every single day. You put your faith in a tiny screen, in complex algorithms and satellites miles above your head to tell you what the sky is about to do. A 10% chance of rain, winds shifting northeast, a severe weather alert buzzing in your pocket. We have more data and more technology dedicated to weather forecasting than ever before. And yet, sometimes it's still just spectacularly wrong. But what if the greatest supercomputer ever built for predicting the weather isn't in your pocket? What if it's all around you? Thousands of years ago, without a single line of code, ancient civilizations could predict massive storms with stunning accuracy. They saw the warnings in the flight of birds, the behavior of animals, and the color of the sunset. These people were the forgotten masters of storm prediction, and their secrets are about to be revealed. How on earth did they do it? How did they develop such a deep understanding of the elements, a knowledge that we've all but lost? Our relationship with the weather today is built on dependency. We've pretty much outsourced our senses to technology. The National Weather Service in the U.S. alone vacuums up over 76 billion observations and spits out 1.5 million forecasts a year, a flood of data meant to give us a feeling of control. We plan our picnics, our commutes, our entire lives around these digital prophecies. And most of the time, it works. Modern meteorology, born from the invention of the telegraph back in the 19th century, is a scientific marvel. But this reliance has cost us something. We've become disconnected, looking at a simulation of the world on a screen instead of the world itself. We trust the app more than our own eyes. When a forecast fails, when that 0% chance of rain turns into a downpour, we feel betrayed by the tech. The ancients, though, had a completely different relationship with the weather. It wasn't an abstract idea. It was a matter of life and death. For them, prediction wasn't a convenience. It was a necessity. Their survival hinged not on complex models, but on deep, immersive observation. They didn't just see the world, they read it. The secret to ancient storm prediction is this. They knew that nature is one big, interconnected system, a vast, living supercomputer. The sky, the sea, the land, the plants, and the animals weren't separate things. They were all connected variables in a single, complex equation. And for thousands of years, humanity's sharpest minds were dedicated to cracking that code. This wasn't really about omens or superstition, at least not entirely. It was a science, built on generations of meticulous pattern recognition. Imagine spending your entire life and your ancestors' lives before you, watching the same patch of sky, the same stretch of coast. You'd start to see the subtle rhythms, the cause and effect that escapes our distracted modern minds. You'd know that a certain cloud in a specific part of the sky at a certain time of day was the reliable precursor to a squall. You'd learn that the unusual silence of insects or ants frantically moving house meant a change was coming. This wasn't magic. It was an intimate, hard-won literacy in the language of the earth. A language that was spoken everywhere, if you just knew how to listen. Long before supercomputers, there were the sky watchers of Mesopotamia. Around 650 BC, the Babylonians were among the first to systematically predict weather by observing and cataloging different cloud types, believing their shape and movement held clues. This practice was deeply tied to their astrology. They believed the planets and stars could also forecast weather, and they recorded countless celestial omens on clay tablets to create a huge database of correlations. A halo around the moon wasn't just pretty. It was a data point that often signaled incoming rain. In ancient Greece, this observational science was taken to the next level. The philosopher Aristotle, around 340 BC, wrote Meteorologica, a groundbreaking book that tried to explain everything from cloud formation to the nature of storms. Aristotle's work was based on observation and logic. He actually understood the basics of the water cycle, how the sun's heat caused vapor to rise, condense into clouds, and fall again as rain. His successor, Theophrastus, then compiled a book called On Signs, which was essentially the world's first practical weather forecasting guide. It was a collection of hundreds of pieces of weather lore from farmers, sailors, and his own observations. He's the one who wrote down that a red sky at night was a sailor's delight, while a red sky in the morning was a sailor's warning, an observation that's been passed down for over 2 millennia and still holds true. For centuries, his book was a foundational text for understanding weather, documenting everything from the flight of cranes to the appearance of centipedes as signs of what was to come. For the ancient Egyptians, life itself was ruled by a single, massive weather event, the annual flooding of the Nile. Their entire civilization was built around predicting its arrival. Their method was cosmic. They noticed the flood always arrived shortly after Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, reappeared on the eastern horizon just before sunrise. This heliacal rising became the cornerstone of their calendar, a celestial clock telling them when to prepare the fields for the life-giving water. But they also paid close attention to their immediate environment. They believed the behavior of animals, like migrating birds or emerging snakes, could signal the coming rainy season. They also kept records of extraordinary weather. The most famous is the Tempest Stela, a 3,500-year-old stone inscription from the reign of Pharaoh Amos. It describes a terrifying storm with a tempest of rain and a sky that raged without cessation. The text speaks of widespread destruction and bodies floating down the Nile. Many scholars now believe this may be the world's oldest written weather report, possibly describing the atmospheric chaos from the massive volcanic eruption of Thera in the Mediterranean. It's just staggering to think about the clarity with which these ancient civilizations read the world. If you're finding these forgotten secrets as fascinating as we are, and want to join us on more journeys into lost wisdom, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss what we uncover next. Maybe the most breathtaking example of ancient storm prediction comes from the open ocean, from the Polynesian voyagers. For thousands of years, these master wayfinders sailed across vast stretches of the Pacific without a single modern instrument. Their survival depended on reading the most dynamic and dangerous environment on Earth. The canoe was their world, and the ocean was their map, their calendar, and their weather forecast, all in one. Polynesian navigators could predict approaching storms, often days in advance, by reading the subtle language of the waves. They knew the ocean's surface held information about distant weather. By feeling the rhythm of ocean swells through the hull of their canoe, they could detect storms hundreds of miles away. A long, steady swell meant stable weather, but a confused, chaotic sea where different swell patterns crossed was a clear sign of a distant storm. They watched the clouds like hawks. A ring of clouds on the horizon might mean a distant island, but a towering cloud that seemed to grow from one spot was a developing squall. And like so many others, they were masters of reading animal behavior. The flight paths of certain birds were crucial, telling a navigator an island was near. But their behavior also signaled weather changes. Birds flying erratically or rushing back to land was a sure sign a storm was on its way. This wasn't one technique, it was a symphony of observations. The stars, the sun, the wind, the waves, the birds, all woven into a living navigational and meteorological system. While many techniques were specific to a certain place, there are universal signs of weather that ancient people all over the world learned to read. These are the fundamental signals of nature's supercomputer, and with a little practice, you can start to see them too. Animal behavior is one of the most famous. The old saying, "If birds fly low, expect rain and a blow," is spot on. Birds' ears are sensitive to drops in air pressure that come before a storm, and the air is also denser at lower altitudes, which makes flying easier. Frogs often get louder before rain, likely thanks to the increase in humidity. And it's common folklore that cows often lie down before a storm, maybe to keep a patch of grass dry or because the change in pressure just makes them feel uneasy. Plants are also surprisingly good weather forecasters. Pine cones open their scales in dry weather to release seeds and clamp them shut when the air is damp. The leaves on trees like maples and poplars will often flip over and show their pale undersides before a storm, because the rising humidity softens their stems, letting the wind turn them over more easily. And then there are the clues in the sky itself. A halo around the sun or moon is a classic sign of rain. These halos are caused by light bending through ice crystals in high-altitude cirrus clouds, which are often the leading edge of a storm. That famous proverb, "Red sky at night, sailor's delight. Red sky in the morning, sailor's warning," is all about how sunlight passes through the atmosphere. At sunrise and sunset, light travels through more of the atmosphere to reach us. If the air is full of dry dust particles from a stable, high-pressure system, it scatters the blue light and lets the red light through. If that system is to your west, where the sun sets, it means good weather is heading your way. But if you see that same red sky in the morning, the good weather has already passed, and a stormy, low-pressure system may be on its way. And this is where it all clicks into place. It wasn't about one single trick. No one culture had all the answers. The Babylonians read the heavens. The Egyptians read the river. The Polynesians read the ocean. Each of them was reading a different part of the same interconnected system. They understood, in a way we've forgotten, that a change in one part of the system sends ripples through all the others. They were the original data scientists. The color of the sky, the direction of the wind, the height of the waves, the sound of the frogs, the flight of the birds. These were their data points. Their minds, sharpened over generations, were the processors. They ran complex, intuitive models based on a lifetime of experience. They didn't see a bird flying low and think, there is a 70% chance of precipitation. They saw the bird, felt the wind shift, noticed the leaves turning over, and knew in their bones a storm was coming. That deep, holistic understanding is the wisdom we've traded for the convenience of an app. The incredible part of this story is that this ancient wisdom isn't just a historical curiosity. Modern science is now beginning to prove what our ancestors knew all along. We understand the physics behind the red sky proverb. We can explain how changes in air pressure affect animal behavior. In one mind-blowing 2019 study, researchers found that the breeding behavior of a songbird, the veery, was a better predictor of the Atlantic hurricane season's intensity than the leading meteorological models. It seems the birds could sense what the season had in store months in advance. This ancient knowledge is having a comeback. Indigenous communities are fighting to preserve their traditional ecological knowledge. Farmers practicing regenerative agriculture are relearning how to read the land. Even the Polynesian art of wayfinding is undergoing a powerful revitalization, with voyages like the Hokulea sailing around the globe using only traditional methods, proving they still work. It turns out that to move forward, sometimes you have to look back. We live in an age of technological miracles. We can summon a 5-day forecast with a tap, a feat that would have been pure magic to our ancestors. But in gaining this power, we've lost something vital: our connection to the world around us. We've stopped looking up. We've stopped listening. The legacy of these ancient storm predictors is a powerful reminder that there is a different way of knowing. They show us that the world isn't a chaotic mess, but a system of intricate patterns and deep connections. The greatest weather app ever created is already installed all around us. The secrets aren't truly lost, they're just waiting for us to notice them again. So the next time you wonder about the weather, just put your phone in your pocket for a minute. Look up at the sky. Feel the wind on your face. Watch the birds. Listen to the world around you. You might be surprised at what it has to say. What weather wisdom have you heard passed down in your family or your region? Share it in the comments below. Let's build our own collection of these incredible signs. And if you want to keep exploring the lost knowledge of the ancient world, make sure you're subscribed and check out our next video on the secrets of ancient engineering. Thanks for watching.